How is American freedom and faith connected for us today? That's the topic that we're going to address today on Flourish-Meant. I'm your host, Tina Yeager, and today I have an amazing guest. His name is Coach Joe Kennedy, and he won a landmark Supreme Court case that is about religious liberty that can impact you, actually. And he goes around the country speaking up for people's religious rights and other rights. He's a former Marine and high school football coach and author of the book Average Joe. And he's been speaking across the country on freedom of speech. And he is now connected with Coral Ridge Ministries as well to do that with their blessing. So welcome to the show today, Joe. I'm so excited to get into this topic with you.
Thank you, Tina. It's so good to see you.
Let's get into the history of your struggle with freedom of speech, and let's talk about that. Can you share what you went through and how you had to persevere to get the rights for everybody?
Really, it's got to be a God thing. There's no other explanations for it. People have been praying on football fields since football was invented. And when I took on the job after getting out of the Marine Corps, it was my calling. I really heard from God that this was going to be my calling and to come and serve these young men. And I was more than happy to oblige with that. My covenant with him is to just give thanks after every football game. So this was really just a word of thanks after a football game over a period of 8 years. It grew from just myself to include kids on our team and the opposing team. And in our last season, we had everybody in our entire league out there praying on the 50-yard line, which was amazing. And that caught the attention of one of the administrators from another school district. And he called our principal and said, I got to tell you what your football program is doing is awesome. And so all of this started with a compliment, which cascaded into this huge, terrible legal battle and ended up having to take it to the Supreme Court over a 15-second prayer by myself on the 50-yard line, if you can imagine that.
Wow, 15 seconds of silence. You weren't even trying to proselytize or convert anybody. You were just sharing with God in your silence. And that almost lost you your job.
Yeah, and it actually did. They first told me to stop praying with the players, and everybody should be happy with that. And I said, well, okay, it's unfortunate, but your school, your rules. I just want to coach football. I don't want to get anybody in any trouble. The school district, all the employees there, the coaches, the families in our community. These people are all my friends, and we're a tight knit group. So I didn't want this fight. But their lawyers said, oh, well, we can still see you out there. And they gave me a letter, and it said I needed to choose between my faith and my job. And that was a no-brainer for me, as much as it was going to cost me everything, my job, almost my marriage, 8 years of legal battles. It cost darn near everything, but it was the right thing to do. So I knew I had to stand up for what was right in the First Amendment. And I wasn't going to let them take that away from me or anybody else in America.
And you're a former Marine. How did that just bother you that your rights that you've been fighting for were being taken from you and they were completely misinterpreting the First Amendment?
Yeah, the First Amendment seemed very, very clear to me. Maybe I'm just too simple, but the freedom of religion and the free exercises, it's pretty simple to me. And being a Marine, that was my first time when I was serving that I felt like I belonged to something because I was a troubled youth. I got in all kinds of trouble in and out of group homes and foster homes and boys' homes. And I was really on the wrong path. And the Marine Corps gave me something really to live for and to be proud of something. And upholding and defending the Constitution really meant something to me. So as a Christian, when I was faced with this dilemma, what do I do? Do I stop praying or do I, do what's right? The American, red-blooded American in me just said, no, this is worth fighting for. And I said, I'm going to die on this hill if I have to defend this right. Because if they're doing this to me over a 15-second prayer, imagine anybody else that isn't willing to fight for things. How many other rights are being lost?
Speaking of how you felt as a youth and how you were turning your heart to these boys that you were coaching and ultimately mentoring, I mean, that's what high school football is really about. It's about mentoring youth, right? So, how did they respond to you taking that stand?
Well, they, of course, wanted me to not take this stance. I kept them uh, uh, in the loop of everything. Every time I had a meeting with everybody in the administration and the lawyers, I kept them totally just, everything was crystal clear. And it was the day before the game, and my team said to me, they were like, Coach, we really want you to just give in. It'd be so much easier. And when the team came to me to say this, I knew right at that exact second that no, I asked these guys to fight and give everything till there's nothing left on the clock, and always preaching to them about doing what's right. And now all of a sudden, I'm going to be the hypocrite who won't do it because this might cost me something or it's going to put me through some trouble. And I thought this was a perfect chance to do some leadership by example and practice what I preach to these kids every day. And that was more important to me, to take that firm stance on doing what was right and to set an example for them, and so they could see in real life that there are repercussions to every action. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, but if you do what's right, it all works out.
Let's talk about the ultimate cost of freedom. It isn't free, and you paid a price for this, both in the sacrifices you made to be in the military, but also here legally. This was a long process. Talk about how this is a lesson in freedom not being free.
Yeah, and I always thought freedom in America was, I took it for granted, and I just assumed that everybody had the same rights as everybody else. And when they came to me and they said that the First Amendment and the Establishment Clause and the separation of church and state, and I was confused. That made absolutely no sense to me. You don't give up who you are in your faith just because you're employed somewhere. And so we took on this legal battle. First Liberty Institute out of Texas, they were the ones that represented me, and thank God that we have groups like them and ADF out there, because I mean, I'm a high school football coach and a former Marine. I don't have the means or the knowledge or anything to stand on my own and fight against the court systems. And this took 8 years. So this was an 8 year legal battle. We lost 7 times, and it went to the Supreme Court twice. So this ended up costing right about $6.98 million. And so, I mean, just that magnitude of the time and money that it costs to do this fight, which was horrible, but the personal cost that it does, it was terrible to go through, to put my family through it for so many years.
And let's talk about that as well. There is a real good versus evil fight when it comes to standing up for faith. So let's talk about how we are in a spiritual battle for faith and our freedom of speech here in America.
Yeah, and I didn't know about spiritual battles until this happened, because I was just praying on a football field and I was exercising my rights as an American, and I never thought I would, come against anything. Well, the enemy is always trying to stir up trouble wherever he is and wherever he goes. And so he thought he could win and take something good like a prayer and turn it into something terrible. And he ended up he got spanked pretty good, and it turned out really good. But we do have that battle in America. People are just so ignorant to what the Constitution and our Bill of Rights. I mean, our history is built, and America is built on our constitutional rights and our religious freedoms. And one of the reasons why we ended up in this country, in the founding fathers, when they set up everything. Everything was set up biblically, and it's been torn away and torn away and torn away for so long, and it's just the erosion has been so small. But now you take a look that we don't have the same freedoms that we used to, and it's about time we started fighting back for them.
Joe, you wrote a book called Average Joe, and you're connected with Coral Ridge Ministries. How can people get connected with you and with the ministries that support you?
Yeah, Coral Ridge is something fairly new. I really admired Dr. Kennedy when he would do his preaching back in the day, and I ran into Pastor Rob So Core Ridge Ministries is just an awesome, they're out there fighting the good fight and really sharing the message that people need to hear today. You can also find me, I'm simple. I'm coachjoekennedy.com. So mine's real simple to find, and all my links are in there to the book, the movie, and to Core Ridge.
I hope that all of you listening were inspired to celebrate and continue the fight to maintain your freedom of faith, your freedom of speech in the United States of America. And of course, I also hope that you will come back for the next episode of Flourishment.